Hey everybody, my name is Drew Nikonowicz. I was a lecturer at 2015 Medium Photo Festival, and I wanted to just give you a little tour of my studio here. So this space is relatively new to me, a couple months since I moved in here, and I do a lot of different things out of this space. So I actually have a project called Standard Cameras where I manufacture large format cameras, so a big part of that is in my closet here with all these 3D printers. I've also got some colored filament down there, and that's for a new project that I'm working on. But yeah, those printers are running pretty often. That's why they're in the closet, so I can close the door and I don't hear them. And then we've got sort of just a general workspace here. Very different from a typical photographer space just because I'm not working in a darkroom from here. I don't have one. And so any sort of processing and things like that I'm doing, those are going to be things that are happening off-site over at any space I can really get access to. But lately, I work over at Washington University here in St. Louis, and so I'll use their facilities because I manage them. But yeah, we've just got a bunch of different stuff, just general tools and things. This is maybe more of like a finishing space in a lot of ways because we've got this big 4-foot by 8-foot table with a new piece of mine on there from a new project that I'm working on. Won't get too much into that today just because it's still very young work, but you got a little sneak peek of it, which is more than most people can say. And then over here, we've just got a bunch of random storage, all my cameras, 4x5s from my company, but also I use them personally. You may have seen over on my table there my Crown graphic that I got recently. So yeah, just sort of a rough space. I also share this with my partner, and so she sort of works over on this half and I work on that half. And I pulled a couple things to show you. First, the work that I spoke about at Medium in 2015 was a project called This World and Others Like It. And I pulled out of my flat file, well I guess I left it in the flat file, but out of my flat file, I pulled this image, or this print, this proof, if you will, from the printers from when my book was published. So I thought I'd just show you a piece of that. I think it's pretty rad. I'm gonna frame this one of these days and stick it on the wall, just out of pride. I think the book turned out really wonderfully. It was designed by Hans Grumman, co-published by Yaffe Press and FW Books. A really, really wonderful, wonderful book. I can't take credit for anything other than the photos. But yeah, so the work that I showed off, This World and Others Like It, it's a mixture of computer-generated photographs and analog 4x5 images. And so I run kind of a hybrid process. So whereas someone like Scott, who was the first person to show one of these videos, you know, he's got his darkroom for his platinum printing and all these things. I can be a little bit more nimble. I don't necessarily need a space like that to get my work done because I run a hybrid process for sheet film. I'll process it myself if it's black and white, and then I do drum scans, and then I print everything inkjet. And that allows me to take the two kinds of imagery that I'm using, these computer-generated photographs and analog photographs, and pass them through a filter and kind of homogenize the experience. And so that allows for my images to kind of have a consistent look across the board. So the images on this test sheet here, there are some of each on the page, but at just sort of a quick glance, you maybe wouldn't notice that. And that's really not an important part of the work, but I think it's worth knowing that that hybrid process is happening, and through close observation you can sort of start to discern the differences between these things. But so the digital component of my work usually starts with these little experiments kind of like this, and this is actually on the home page of my website if you want to check it out. And yeah, the computer generated imagery is all made on my computer here, and I'm using a bunch of different software. This is a piece by my partner. I feel like I'm like being loomed over. And so, I'll be using video game software, mapping software, video games just outright, and these kinds of source material to either inspire or create the computer-generated photographs in my work. And in my book and other places, you'll see that the titles are a series of coordinates, a time, and a date. And for the case of the computer-generated photographs, it actually just tells you where my desktop was located at the time that I made the piece. So if you want a really interesting history of some places that I lived between 2012 to 2016 when I was making the work, just buy my book and plug in those coordinates, and you can see where I lived in St. Louis, where I lived in Columbia, Missouri, and a few other places. So that's kind of fun, I suppose. But yeah, so that's just sort of a quick overview of my space here. I hope everybody's doing well, and wash your hands and stay safe and all that. And yeah, I hope to hear from you guys. I hope everybody's safe, and see you on the other side.